Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Steins 0. In the last episode, Rintaro brought Kagari over to the radio building, at her request of all things. But upon returning from the radio building, Kagari suffered yet another episode, at which she actually forgot who Mayuri Shina was, momentarily of course. But this was an indication to Rintaro that the strain of Kurisu's memories on Kagari's psyche is getting much, much worse. And the only way to undo it is the development of the of the neural machine that was once used as the time leap machine, using Kurisu's interesting theory that was published in Science. Fortunately, it seems that, judging by this outcry, that Daru and Maho have succeeded in completing said machine. The second I opened the door, I heard Daru and Maho yelling. Indeed, we did. And that is the first ray of good news that we've had this up until now. I ran inside without even taking the time to remove my shoes. Breach of etiquette there, Rintaro, but this is too important. Indeed, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Yes, mild rainstorm. Pay it no mind. Indeed, I don't think they'd be cheering if they weren't finished yet, Rintaro. Daru gave me a thumbs up. That's a very good sign coming from him. So now we have the means to separate Kurisu's memories from Kagari and ultimately save her life.
Super hacker なのだぜ。これくらい当然だっつーの。
He could say that, but I knew exactly how much talent and effort it took to hack CERN. Talent which Daru does indeed possess, which is no exaggeration there. Your average hacker couldn't do it. The name Super Hacker wasn't just for show, which is very useful to the future gadget lab.
ヒアジョーさんはヒアジョーさんの方も完成したのか。
私だってこれくらいどうってことなかったわ。
Well, she did work with Kurisu, even though she considers herself to be somewhat inferior to her. Maho stuck her thumb up just like Daru had, which is good.
まあこれも全部あなたやKagariさんから情報を得られたからなんだけど、そういう意味ではKagariさんの中にクリスの記憶が残っていて助かったわね。
I suppose that is the silver lining to all this, since Kagari does possess Kurisu's memories. She has most of her theses, including that one.
それでも完成させたのはヒアジョーさんの力だ。
But Rintaro does have a point. Kurisu may have the theological aspect of it, but Maho and Daru were the ones that actually built the physical incarnation in this world line. Whereas in the Alpha world line, Kurisu did indeed build the time leap machine.
ありがとう。その言葉素直に受け取っておくわ。
That's probably for the best, Maho.
あとは実際にきちんと機能するかどうかが問題だけど、こればっかりは試してみるわけにもいかないのよね。
But Maho does raise another point. We need to see if it actually functions as intended. And of course that means actually using it on Kagari post-haste, and I don't think we're going to be able to do any test runs with it. In fact, doing test runs is essentially moot, given how little time Kagari has.
そうだな。
僕はキッチン二郎3回な。
I would say no dice, Daru, but if this works, we may have to take you up on that offer. Sure thing. Anyway, everything was ready. All that was left was to find out who they were. They. But that was still the biggest problem.
それじゃ私はちょっと眠らせてもらうわ。さすがに疲れる。
I'd forgotten how much time it had actually taken to actually construct the time leap machine, or rather convert the time leap machine from the phone wave TVA. Although it's actually, now that I think about it, it's actually phone wave real name TBA. I always call it phone wave TBA in this LP for some reason. The sound of a ringing phone cut her off. That can only be good news or bad news.
もう誰よ。人がこれから寝ようって時に。
Well, considering your short list of contacts, Maho, I would imagine that, I would also hazard a guess, rather than imagine, that there is one person in particular who is trying to get in touch with you.
はい、もしもし。
Either that, or it could be one of the other members. She muttered to herself as she took the phone to the back of the development room.
で、かがりたんの方はどうなん？
She could be doing much better.
それなんだが。
Just as I spoke, a Rhine message arrived. So we won't have to take this. Fortunately, it's from Rukuko. Kagari woke up, she's calmed down. I let out a small sigh of relief and sent back an answer. Got it. Sorry, can you look after her for a while? I'll contact you if I need you.
実はあまり良くない。今日なんて真由りのことすらわからなくなった。
Yeah, there is no point in sugarcoating things. We need to deal with this ASAP.
マジで？
それだけじゃない。その後ひどい頭痛を訴えて意識を失った。
Which means that the situation is getting much worse, unless we can pull this off.
それまずくね？
Bad doesn't even begin to describe it, Daru.
まずいな。なんとかしないと。
Hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed that this actually does work. Because if we leave it for too long, then Kaguri's pretty much her identity will be subsumed by that of Kurisu. Of course, Kaguri's body itself could actually shut down as a result. But unless we knew who we were up against, there was nothing we can do. Well, fortunately, unbeknownst to Rintaro and the rest of them, if you've been following me up until this point, we know exactly who we're dealing with. Hmm.
本当ですか？
Of course, Maho's received some news that we're not exactly sure about. Daru and I exchanged glances at the sudden voice from the development room.
真帆たん、どうしたん？
何かあったのか？
When we looked inside, Maho turned around in a state of shock. And the look on her face tells us that the news is not so good.
荒らされたって、私の借りてたホテルの部屋。
That's truly ominous indeed, but excuse me 1 second. Once again, turning off the microphone so I don't sneeze, or sneeze off the microphone. Anyway, this is ominous indeed, because it means that whoever did that is essentially looking for something that Maho has, and we already have a pretty good idea what it is. The devices that were left behind by Kurisu Makase, most notably her laptop and her hard drive, which contain a lot of her scientific meanderings, but also infamously the original time travel thesis that she developed on the Beta World line before it was stolen and plagiarized by her father Nakabachi, who is now languishing in Russia. But yeah, going back to who's behind this, as I've already said, if you've been following me thus far, we know who exactly has been pursuing us thus far, which is the infamous shadow broker group known as Strategic Focus, colloquially known as Stratfor. But they're not the only ones who are after us in this case, because there are others as well. There are, of course, the Russian intelligence who have the aforementioned Nakabachi, and the only reason they would want to pursue Kurisu's laptop is to keep it out of the hands of their opponents, otherwise, most notably Stratfor. But there is a third group that we have to deal with, a sort of rival American agency known as DERPA, which is, has its own agenda for both Amadeus and Kurisu's time travel technology, or ideas. The call was from the hotel. Maho was staying at a business hotel in Wako City, where the Brain Science Institute is currently being housed. Sometime in the past few days while she'd been staying here, someone had ransacked it. She left her keycard with the front desk, but there were signs that the lock had been picked. She'd just given her okay to search the room. Yeah, these people are in fact professionals.
それで詳しい状況は分かったのか?
We can only hope they didn't.
今から警察に連絡するから、何が盗まれてるか調べるためにも早く戻ってこいって。
Hopefully Maho has played it smart and not left anything invaluable in her apartment.
じゃあ何が取られたかわからんってこと？もしかして下着とかも？
Your jokes are in bad taste and ill timing, Daru.
そういうのは全部持ってきてるわよ。セクハラで訴えましょうか？
They can probably say goodbye to that kitchen Juro.
うひー、それだけは勘弁。
まあ、私の部屋って普段から散らかってるから荒らされてるように見えただけって可能性もある。楽観的に考えればね。
Indeed, you're right on the money. Although you have rather unique living tastes, Maho, that is indeed being optimistic.
鍵が開けられてたって言うから、誰かが入ったのは間違いないでしょうけど。
That would be the logical conclusion of
実は
events.
ついこの間もオフィスの方が荒らされたことがあって。
That's true. The Brain Science Institute itself was actually ransacked as well.
じゃあ単なる偶然じゃないな。何者かがヒヤジョーさんの持っている何かを探しているんだ。
Indeed. What's more ominous is the fact that they actually know that Maho has the something that they're after.
そうね。でも何を探しているのかは見当がついてるわ。
なんだ？
クリスのノート PC よ。
Indeed. Pretty much the core of the problem that lies at the heart of this matter.
あれか。
Putting all the pieces together, it seemed the most likely option. I could be sure that whoever tried to overwrite Kagari's memories was the same group that attacked her in the other world line. Whoever those people were, they were after the time machine theory hidden in Kurisu's memories. Which, unfortunately, is a pretty useful way of getting around the security system of Amadeus itself. But since their experiment had failed and Kagari had escaped, they turned their attention to the other thing Kurisu had left behind. The laptop and hard drive that Maho had. Of course, their efforts will be in vain without our trustworthy super hacker, because after all, he was the one who designed the security system for said laptop and hard drive. In other words, that laptop is about as secure as Amadeus's at the moment, which is to say it's pretty well secured. But if they were after that, did that mean they had it now? It would be unfortunate if they did, but again, it's useless without the code.
つかその PC ってこの前真帆たんが僕に託したやつ？
Indeed it is, Daru.
実はね、どうしてもパスワードを解析したくてここにこもるようになってから橋田さんにお願いしたの。
それじゃあノート PC は？
In other words,
無事のはずよ。ね。
in other words, it's not at Maho's apartment.
もちろん今は僕の秘密のアジトにあるのだぜ。
Well, can let out a small sigh of relief, although it's not much considering the fact that, in a previous world line, that secret hideout was actually found out, so, we should probably, try and play it low-key and try and retrieve the laptop from there before it actually gets found out.
つってもずっとセルンのハッキングにかかりきりだったからまだパスワードは解析できてないけどね。
Since I've been so busy with hacking soon, I haven't had time analyze. Yeah, you have to love the localization sometimes. Sometimes it just slips through the cracks, as it were, but there's nothing you can do about it. But Daru indeed is correct. He's been busy with accessing the Large Hadron Collider, which is necessary to compress the memory data. That made me feel a lot better. Now, if only we knew who had broken into a room, but it wouldn't be that easy. Not when we have to find out all over again. Still, if they'd done something like that, they must be starting to panic. What would they do next? Indeed, we can't actually anticipate their movements readily enough, since their actions have been different in separate world lines. Because on one world line they attacked the lab on Christmas, at the Christmas party, and in another they attacked in a completely separate turn of events. Wait a second.
もしかしたらこれは使えるかもしれない。
I think I know where you're going with this, Rintaro. I didn't want to waste time explaining, so I just took up my phone and made the call. Several days later, Kagari's condition was getting worse. Definitely running out of time here. And speaking of which, staccato footsteps echoed through the darkness. Akihabara got quiet early. The ever-busy electronics stores, the concert halls that were filled with cheers, and the coffee shops that were full of laughter, all of that gave way to silence as soon as night fell. A single set of footsteps walked slowly through the silence, never breaking rhythm. They belonged to a girl. It was dark, and so it was hard to see her clearly. But it was very clear that she was acting strange. She had a cap pulled down over her face, and was trying to avoid letting anyone see her as she walked. As if she was hiding from someone, as if someone was chasing her. And just as she was about to turn a corner, several men jumped out in front of her. The girl stopped in surprise. But I think I'm starting to get an idea as to Rintaro's plan here. Risky as it is. Suddenly there were men behind her too.
Kagari だな。
One of the men spoke. They're not wearing masks, but then again, they may or may not be exactly the same people that were after that attacked us last time, but who knows. His Japanese was fluent, but if she'd listened carefully, she might have detected a trace of a foreign accent. The girl they called Kagari was helpless as they surrounded her. Though it's a bit reckless to now that I think about it, it is considerably reckless for Rintaro to use Kagari as bait to lure out the enemy, as it were. One of the men thought to himself, this is the easiest job in the world. Well, considering the fact that Kagari has undergone significant brainwashing, all they had to do was kidnap a single helpless-looking girl. There was no need to bring this many people. You couldn't be more wrong, good sir. No, it wasn't just him. Almost everyone there felt the same way. Looks like these people are lowering their guard.
おとなしくしていれば手荒な真似はしない。
The men gradually began to close in. The girl simply stood there, afraid, and showed no signs of resistance. This was too easy. Just as the man smiled and reached out his hand, not as helpless as you thought. He thought he heard the sound of something slicing through the air, and then he fell to the ground clutching his hand. It looked like 3 sausages were lying on the ground. Those are not sausages. Before they realized that the sausages were the man's fingers, another man went down from a high kick to the head. The men began to howl in rage. Oop. Sorry about that. Another sneeze there.
You fucking bitch!
And that was in English there, good sir. I leapt at the girl, swearing. But too little too late. Seems like everything is going to cake. One of the men who was trying to attack her from behind suddenly screamed.
Oi, oi. 静かにしな。あんまりうるさくすると、おめえらも困るんじゃねえのか?
There is part 2 of the plan, which would explain the phone call that Rintaro made. Looks like you're helping us again. A huge man came out of the darkness, surrounded by the moon. Or silhouetted by the moon, not surrounded. But it looks like Rintaro is cashing in his chips and calling in all the favors that he has at his disposal. As this is all going on, it looks like 4 days have passed since that time. That was all I could say as I watched these tough men go down, one after the other. Well, that's not surprising, given that they're going up against a man with the physique of Yugo Tanuji, aka FB from CERN. I knew from his size that Tanuji was strong. It was the other girl that really shocked me. Her disguise ruined, Suzuha jumped around like a cat. Each time she moved, the men around her quivered. Indeed, Rintaro actually did know better than to use Kagari herself as live bait given her situation. So instead, Suzuha took her place. And of course, if you were being observant, you would have been able to tell that that was Suzuha, given that her blue jumpsuit is quite distinctive. I knew she'd undergone combat training, but I had no idea she was this strong when she was serious. Indeed, she is definitely well trained in the future of 2036. The kicks from her long, lithe legs were like a work of art. There she goes again. Indeed, if only they were like this on the Alpha World line. But then again, the Alpha World line, Suzuha was fighting CERN. The men fell to the ground without even having the time to draw their knives and guns. Several days earlier, when I realized that the enemy was probably starting to panic, I came up with a plan. A plan so cunning, you could pin a tail on it and call it a weasel, as Blackadder would say. In the last world line, Moriko told me that someone was looking for Kagari. Some people, rather. I wondered if that was true in this world line too. Well, your hunch seems to have paid off there. So I asked Morica to leak some information for me. Looks like two can play the information warfare game. A girl matching Kagari Shina's description came down this road at the same time every day. And today, a few days later, they'd all taken the bait. So far, so good. I hung back behind the corner of an alley, watching them fight. I felt kind of pathetic. Well, you're not exactly, combat efficient, Rintaro. And, unfortunately on the Alpha World line, even the, might of Hoin Kiyomo is actually no match in a fight. But it was obvious that not only would I be of no help whatsoever, I'd actually just get in the way. So it was smarter to leave it to them. Good call there, Rintaro.
そっちはどう？
Looks like things are progressing well there. I heard Daru's voice from the earphone on my ears. I called him and left the call connected so that we could talk at any time.
鈴葉は大丈夫？怪我してない？
If anything, she's the one doing all the hurting there, Daru. Daru had been opposed to Suzuha's plan to use herself as a decoy. He must have been worried about putting his daughter in danger. Those fears are currently being allayed as we speak.
心配いらない。お前の娘は想像よりずっとすごいよ。
And Rintaro is clearly in awe of Suzuha's skills.
そりゃ僕の娘だからね。でも傷物になんかされたらおかりん。一生恨むからな。
He'd be better off worrying about the people she was fighting. I suddenly heard a high-pitched whistle. Seems like the coast's clear. At the signal, the men started to turn and run. Okay, so it was a call for retreat. They'd realized they'd fallen into a trap and decided to retreat. Running away.
そうはいくかよ。
Unfortunately, we actually need to interrogate them. Tanuji's giant arms grabbed one of the men's hands. Sorry there. But... gunshot. There was a hollow popping sound and the man's body went limp. Looks like they're not entirely unaware as we thought. They seem to have a contingency plan, even though we were doing so well. No way. He was dead? He took his own life? No, he was silenced by one of the others. A piercing yell brought me back to my senses. One of the men was coming toward the alleyway where I was hiding, and we are completely unarmed. Our goal was to capture them and make them tell us who they were working for. But now it seems that the trap has been reversed somewhat. If we couldn't do that, all of this would be for nothing, because they're not going to fall for the same trick twice. I ran out in front of the man without even thinking. Probably a bad move on our part. But at least he was pleasantly surprised. My sudden appearance caused him to hesitate for a moment. Okay, so it wasn't after us, he was looking to run away. But he kept charging without dropping his speed. That's not good. I saw that he was holding on to something shiny near his waist. That could be one of two things. Just as he hit me, Suzuha slammed into him with a jump kick. And looks like a solid KO there. The kick then knocked him directly into Tanuji's waiting arms. Tanuji caught him easily, then spun the man's arms around his back so he couldn't hurt himself. We might want to get out of the alleyway in case there are snipers.
おじさん、怪我は？
But, looks like Rintaro is, not doing so good here, because that shiny metal object, I had thought it was a gun, but he probably could have used it any time, as he was running away. So I'm guessing it wasn't.
大丈夫？
なんともない。
And given the sudden flash of pain Rintaro is feeling right about now, that metallic weapon can only be a knife.
おかりん、どうしたん？何があった？
Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about Suzuha being hurt. The bad news is that we got hurt
心
ourselves.
配するな。こっちはみんな無事だ。それより鈴葉、奴は？
I would take that answer as an affirmative. Something like a scream came out of his mouth. At some point, Tanuji had jammed what looked like a towel into it. He was probably trying to keep him from killing himself like the last guy.
おいおい、あんまり暴れるんじゃねえよ。騒ぎになって困るのはおめえもだろうが。
I would listen to Tanuji in your situation, good sir.
それにまだ1本目だぜ。情けねえ。あとまだ9本も残ってる。
Looks like he understands the situation
それ
soon
が終わ
enough.
ったら目だ。それから両方の耳、鼻。まだまだお楽しみはいっぱいあるんだぜ。
It's a very good thing that Nai is hopefully safe at home and in bed right now. His voice was cold. This was the real Tanuji, or rather, this was Ferdinand Braun, FB. I wanted to look away, but Suzuha was watching without flinching in the slightest.
俺だって面倒な真似はしたくねえ。どうせ吐くんなら早めに吐いた方がお互いのためだと思うぜ。
Well, on the one hand, we will actually learn which of the special interest groups are currently after Kurisu's laptop right now, but there is a drawback to this, unfortunately, adventurers. Is that whoever is responsible is definitely going to retaliate at some point.
どうだ。もう一本行くか。
Tanuji with his patented interrogation techniques. The man shook his head violently.
最初からそうすりゃいいんだよ。で、おめえさんたちの元締めは誰だ？
But even now he still refuses to talk. Well, he can't, obviously. Tanuji took the towel out of the man's mouth. He said something in a whisper so small I couldn't hear it. Tanuji's pallor suddenly changed. That's, unnerving.
ストラト4？
So it looks like we're right on the money after all. Strategic focus.
冗談じゃねえだろな。
Unfortunately, Tanuji and this world line, strategic focus is far from a conspiracy theory. The man desperately shook his head again.
ストラト4か。また面倒な奴らが。
Indeed. And the beta world line, CERN, is but a small minnow in a sea of sharks and barracudas. Stratfor. I'd heard of them. Back when I was into conspiracy theories as Hoenn Kill, I looked them up on the internet. Their real name was Strategic Focus, I think. They were an American civilian intelligence company, sometimes called the Shadow CIA. They specialized in military matters, and their skills had supposedly been put to good use during the Iraq and Gulf Wars. The conspiracy theory goes that Stratfor's specialty is predicting certain military conflicts. Of course, it's going through conspiracy theory logic. It's easy to do that when you are the ones instigating said conflicts to begin with. If a certain rounder like Tanuji said they were a problem, they probably were. No dystopian future for you, son. Not this, or rulership for you, son. Not this time. This wasn't going to be easy. And even if we deal with Stratfor, we still have the other special interest groups hot on their tail. In other words, but now wasn't a time for being scared.
聞いたか誰今すぐにストラト4のサーバーにハッキングをかけてくれ
Let's do this Leroy Jenkins style, and hope we don't get swapped by dragon whelps. I felt myself starting to relax after I completed my first objective. To the victor goes the spoils, but there wasn't time for celebration. This was where things really began. Remember what I said about retaliation adventurers? This isn't over yet. Not by a long shot.
どうしたの店長。何か気にかかることでも。
Indeed, Stratfor is a considerable adversary.
いや、ストラト4といや民間の会社だぜ。
Indeed, they may be a civilian company themselves.
金によって雇われてる連中だ。そんな奴らがいくら捕まったからって自決までするか
But Tanuji has hit the nail on the head. Even if we deal with one group, another will just take its place. It did seem strange, come to think of it.
おい、おめえ本当に
Tanuji tried to wring the man's neck again, but...
気を失ってやがる。だらしねえやつだ。
Looks like he's unconscious from shock. Tanuji sighed and took out a rope, then started to tie him up.
後始末は俺に任せて、おめえらは行け。
いいんですか
Should probably take his advice there, Rintaro.
これで終わりじゃねえんだろ
Indeed it isn't. Your point is well seen. I was a little curious what he intended to do with them, but...
わかりました。後のことはお願いします。
And we'll handle things on our end. I had other priorities right now. I said my thanks to Tanuji and hurried to the lab with Suzuha. So we know which group is after us.
おじさん、早く。
わかってる。
Running to the lab post haste with an injury. Suzuha ran through the night like a panther. It was all I could do to keep up. The path to the lab seemed to be far longer than it usually did. But at least we made it back. We finally made it to the lab. Mayuri, Ferris, and everyone else were already there waiting. And Kagari too. And the toll just keeps getting worse. Kagari was lying on the couch in obvious pain. Her breathing was shallow. Her complexion was pale. Something bad could happen to her at any moment. So we need to be fast.
なる。どうだ？
ちょい待ち。前にハッキングかけた時のルートがあるから今探ってる。
Covering our tracks, I see.
前にって。お前、そんな危険なことをしてたのか？
ちょっとね、友達と賭けでね、どっちが早くハックできるか勝負したんだ。ゴーゴーカレー1年分。
Well, Daru is a bona fide super hacker after all. He probably had no idea of how dangerous that was.
あれ？どっちが勝ったか聞かないん？
No need to guess. From the way he was acting, there was no need to even ask.
とにかく、急いでくれ。
Time is of the essence, Daru.
ラジャー。
Roger that indeed. Since their plan was to steal Kagari, since their plan to steal back Kagari had failed, there was a good chance Stratfor would resort to even more desperate measures. And that was the drawback that we anticipated from the get-go. There's nothing more we can do about that. Well, things are going well so far. We know that Stratfor are the ones who are after Kurisu's laptop and Kagari Shina, and Daru has a way into their servers to acquire the information that we need to actually separate Kagari's memories from Kurisu's and keep her from being consumed by said memories. So, when we return, adventurers, hopefully Stratfor aren't going into high gear right off the bat, although given the situation, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. So we'll only have to hope that Daru's skills once again prove themselves and that our luck holds out long enough for us to actually save Kagari Shina. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.